This is Father Vogel. We continue our series on St. Francis de Sales' Introduction to the Devout Life. We continue through part 3 on the virtues, and we are going to finish the 6 videos on friendship. This final chapter of St. Francis on friendship is just some further counsels upon friendship. So he begins by speaking how friendship requires a great amount of communication between those friends. And friendship is based upon the sharing, the communication between each other of the good virtues. But because all of us are not yet perfect saints, we will have our imperfections, and so those imperfections will also be part of that communication back and forth. We share the bad along with the good, he says. So it says, certainly we must love our friend in spite of his imperfection, but we must neither love nor receive his imperfection, because friendship demands the communication of what is good and not what is evil. So we want to be careful that, when we are around a friend, we tend to pick up certain habits from one another. We want to be careful we don't pick up the bad habits, because oftentimes we might notice that with our children. We wonder, where do they come up with a certain habit? Well, it's probably from their parents. Or where do they learn certain words that they shouldn't be using? Well, often it's because they learned it from their parents. So it's the same way with friends, is that we want to be wary of those imperfections. We don't want to pick up and imitate them ourselves, each other's imperfections, but we want to be able to recognize, love them in spite of their imperfections, and then call them to the higher virtues that would counter their perfections. He continues, I'm speaking only of imperfections. As to sins, we should neither tolerate nor encourage them in a friend. It is either a feeble or wicked friendship that sees a friend perish and does not succor him, sees him die of an abscess and does not dare to save him by making use of the lancet of correction. True and living friendship cannot endure in the midst of sins. A friend is an enemy if he wishes to lead us into sin. One of the most certain marks of a false friendship when we see it cultivated. So when it comes to sins, when we see that in a friend, a true friend is going to call that out and call them to something more. He says it's a false friendship to allow sin to continue, or a friendship that, in a sense, enables the other person to continue in that sin. That is not a true friendship. He says in there, it's like, we can't be called a true friend if we see somebody, with this kind of cancer of sin within them, and we say nothing. We allow them to continue to their own spiritual demise. That is certainly not friendship. And he concludes his reflections on friendship by bringing up 2 passages from the Scripture. He says, finally, there are 2 sacred texts, like 2 mighty columns, to support Christian life strongly. One is that of the wise man. Whoever fears God shall also have a good friendship, from Sirach. And the other is that of St. James. The friendship of this world is the enemy of God. So we have those 2 final pieces of wisdom. First, from the book of Sirach, whoever fears God shall also have a good friendship. So if we are in proper relationship with God, and then engage in friendships, making sure that God is part of it as well, then we will more likely have a good friendship when God is at the center. And then from the letter of St. James, the friendship of this world is the enemy of God. To remember that to be a friend of God means we won't be able to be a friend of everything in this world. And if we spend so much time being friends of the things of this world, we may end up separating ourselves from the life of God. This ends his series of chapters on the virtue of friendship. Let us strive to engage in friendships that are based upon the good virtues and a desire to lead one another to God, and pray to God himself that he may give us good and genuine friends. God bless.